Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, gamers around the world, unite. And they have, especially with all of the Japanese gamers out there. The pushback for Assassin's Creed Shadows has been absolutely insane, ladies and gentlemen. From the very first trailer dropped showing their main protagonist, Yasuke, an African slave that was brought to Japan in the crazy-ass centuries, a long, very, very long time ago. And boys and girls, they decided to pick this character out there, and unlike every other Assassin's Creed game in history where the main protagonist was actually of the country that the game was based in, Yasuke is based on a character that was part of a story about a character based on a fictional story about an actual real character that was in Japan that actually never was a samurai. But the historical inaccuracies aside, the Japanese people have been very, very upset about this game, and they have been making their voices heard far and wide. And not only has this affected Ubisoft's stock price, ladies and gentlemen, they are now being investigated by the Japanese government themselves. And in response to all of this, have they decided to cancel the game? Have they decided to make some drastic change that maybe actually represents Japan properly in their video game? No, 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 boys and girls. They have decided to issue a BS nonsensical apology with a bunch of gaslighting involved in it. And boys and girls, it is hilarious. It is absolute corporate BS speak, and it is full of a bunch of BS excuses that we are going to break down. We are going to devastate, and we are going to absolutely destroy here for you, ladies and gentlemen. And we know that the only reason they are even putting this statement out there is because you are having an effect. The gamer, the fan, the people out there who love these IPs and have spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on these franchises, the customer. And at the end of the day, if you aren't happy, ladies and gentlemen, ain't nobody happy. The money stops flowing. And a company like Ubisoft knows it has to do something, at least something, to try to save face. Whether or not it'll work, probably not. We're going to find out here shortly as the game continues to go forward. And of course, as the development and the launch for this game is still coming in November. So we're going to check out this article from That Park Place, get into the statement from Ubisoft, what some of the reactions have been so far, and of course, be blowing a hole through all of their BS arguments as well. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe and or follow if you have not already, because we have finally crossed 800 on both Rumble and YouTube, and we're sailing our way closer and closer to 900, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below whether or not you did believe Ubisoft's apology is genuine, or if this is something they're just trying to use to cover their own ass for a game that is probably going to fail miserably and cost the company hundreds of millions of dollars, and could even potentially get them in trouble with the Japanese government. So, from That Park Place, from our dear sweet friend John F. Trent, Ubisoft releases statement to Japanese player amidst massive backlash to Assassin's Creed Shadows. So video game publisher and developer Ubisoft releases statement to Japanese players amidst massive backlash to the company's upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows game. Japanese players launched a petition at the end of June claiming the game is a serious insult to the Japanese culture and history. The petition, created by Shimizu Toro, currently has 94,764 signatures, ladies and gentlemen, and this is just the first in a laundry list of backlash that they have had, and that is really funny. So they can go over all of that. I definitely highly recommend, if you want to make your voice heard about the Assassin's Creed Shadows issues, you want to make your voice added to the petition, definitely go check out this petition. Definitely go check it out, go sign it, go look into it, and go make your voice heard, because clearly it is working, ladies and gentlemen, because Ubisoft has now had to issue a statement going over all of the backlash. And of course, this is right here from their very own Twitter account right here, the full statement in full. If you want to read the entire thing, by all means, go over there and do it. But a lot of it's just a bunch of corporate speak and fluff nonsense. So this is some of the interesting parts that we've got here. Ubisoft addressed this backlash in a blog post stating, "Since the announcement of Assassin's Creed Shadows, we have received many positive reactions." Really? Really? Well, I guess by definition, many is a fair assessment, but also some criticism, including from you, our Japanese players. Some criticism, ladies and gentlemen. 775,000 downvotes on the Ubisoft trailer from the American account. From the American account, boys and girls, over 9.1 million views in 2 months to 775,000 downvotes. Some criticism, and yes, they're right. They did get some positive reviews, 292,000 upvotes. That is a ratio from hell. And if you go to the Japanese accounts over there, it's absolutely even worse when you look at all of this kind of stuff. It just gets worse and worse, and the comment section is absolutely littered with all kinds of nonsense, with all kinds of people pushing back against them. It's just, and look at this, filled with comments from Japanese people out there. Yeah, I'd say they're making their voices just a little bit heard on this kind of thing. But also some criticism, including from you, our Japanese player. We share your passion for history and deeply respect your care for the historical and culturally integrity of your rich heritage. Really? You share a passion for their history and deeply respect their care for their historical and cultural integrity. Oh, really? Oh, really? Because this is the team you hired to consult on the historical accuracies of their game. Now, first off, I just want to point out, and it's not for me, of course, to question anyone's racial identity in the modern era where you can identify as literally absolutely anything, but I don't see a whole lot of traditional Japanese-looking people involved in this team. Now, we do see one, ladies and gentlemen, Sachi Shihomura, professor of Japanese literature and culture. But if you missed who that person was, we've done videos over who that individual is. Needless to say, Sachi, all of her Japanese cultural studies and documentations and historical publishings, all of this have all been slanted in a very LGBTQ plus method, and have even been made some things very questionable about feudal Japan's history according to how older men interact with younger boys. That's been the focus of her thesis and her studies on Japanese culture and heritage. Boys and girls, I wonder which ways her consulting went for the game. Probably not towards so much actual cultural historical accuracies. Boy, I wonder why Japan's so upset. We would like to addressify a few points to clarify our intentions and creative decisions. The company then discussed its overall authenticity efforts. We have put significant effort into ensuring our immersive and respectful representation of feudal Japan. Let's just show this off again. Okay, should I say anything else again on that one? Probably not. Probably not. However, our intention has never been to present any of our Assassin's Creed game, including Assassin's Creed Shadows, as a factual representation of history or historical characters. Well, what you've never done is gone out of your way to intentionally change significant historical facts and actions and things that actually happened. Most of the time, you create a fictional character to place inside of a world. Instead, you have intentionally tried to rewrite history with your nonsense, because you know there's plenty of uneducated masses out there who watch your games, who play your games and enjoy them, who will take you and who actually respect you to at least be slightly historically accurate. But clearly that's something you've decided to disregard because you would instead rather support the agenda and hire people who clearly are pushing a significant revisionist version of history out there. You think you've made that very, very obvious. We'd like to address a few points to clarify our intentions. Instead, we aim to spark a curiosity and encourage players to explore and learn more about the historical settings we get inspired by. Yeah, right. That is absolute BS and gaslighting. They know that most people out there are not going to put forth the effort on their own to actually find out if any of this is actually historically accurate or by any means actually dig more into Japanese culture. Now, yes, a true and proper representation, a true and proper adaptation of anything can cause people to be more interested in the things that it's surrounded by. I'm a prime example of that. One Piece, the Netflix live action, was good. I loved it. I enjoyed it. And guess what? Now I'm like episode 800 or 900 into the anime out there, because before I was always worried it was going to be way too much of a daunting task. But I loved the characters and how they were represented so well in that show that I absolutely dumped into it. And that's what they're trying to argue, is that this game, that's always been their intent. And that's all their intent is behind this game. Except just like every other inaccurate representation of anything that has gone out there, all that's going to do is cause people to go out there, find the truth, and hate your guts even more than most of the fans calling you out for this BS. Because this is the thing. We're not calling these people out just because we're angry and just because we're upset about what they're doing. It's because we want them to do better. We love the Assassin's Creed game. It was one of my favorite franchises on the PlayStation system that I got and continued to go back and buy the titles over and over again without question, without looking into the reviews, without finding out what other people were talking about them. I bought those games blindly up until the point where I just kind of fell out of video games because guess what? Life gets in the way sometimes and adulting happens. And I come back to a franchise that I loved, that I literally was inspired as a kid to try to figure out a way to engineer my own little secret blade. Right? I loved these games that much. But now I come back to a franchise and I find it like this. Like so many other things I loved as a kid, or as just something that I loved 10 or 15 years ago. Holy cow, that shows my age, boys and girls. Literally, to find it in this kind of state, completely and infected and infested by the cult out there, is disgusting and is disturbing. And we're calling you out, Ubisoft, because we want you to do better. Because we know you can do better. But instead, you decided to bet on the woke agenda. You decided to bet on the cult and hire all of these insane people to do nothing more than run your company into the ground. And that's exactly what they will do if you do not change direction. Your BS apology, your nonsense arguments talking about how Yasuke and here, our team extensively collaborated with external consultants. Yeah, we know the external consultants you went with. Researchers and internal teams at Ubisoft Japan to inform our creative decisions. Despite these sustained efforts, we acknowledge that some elements in our promotional materials have caused concern with the Japanese community, i.e. your main protagonist. For this, we sincerely apologize. Oh yeah, does this one feel like a sincere apologies? All our game footage presented so far in development, the game will keep evolving until launch, based on the constructive criticisms we've received. And we will continue our efforts until we put this game into your hands and beyond. Yes, because your stock has tanked, and because even the Japanese government is investigating you now. Ubisoft advised Japanese players to avoid criticizing their consultants. I agree with that. Criticize the company that hired the consultants, because the consultants will eventually go away if they don't have jobs anymore. But absolutely call the consulting firm agencies out for still what they have done. Make videos about them, but you don't need to attack individual people. That's ridiculous. That's stupid. Win the war with your voices and make your voices heard and gather the people around you that agree with you. That's how we win. That's how Ubisoft, that's the reason why Ubisoft is now having to put out this statement to begin with. Because you have united as gamers and as lovers of Japan and made your voices heard. We strive for authenticity in everything we do. Assassin's Creed, yada, yada, yada. We take creative licenses and we incorporate fantasy elements. Yada, yada, yada. The representation of Yasuke in our games is an illustration of this. His unique and mysterious life made him an ideal candidate to tell an Assassin's Creed story while setting the feudal Japan as a backdrop. While Yasuke is depicted as a samurai in Assassin's Creed Shadows, we acknowledge that this is a matter of debate and discussion. No, you were trying to push a version of revisionist history and you got caught. That's the only reason you're putting out this statement. You got caught. That's the only reason you've said any of this. That's the only reason you have decided to correct even the slightest amount of things. And that's what they're going to go on to say. That, well, the female protagonist, she also is just as much of a main character as Yasuke. Really? Because that's not who's in your promotional material. That's not who's on the cover of your game. In big detail, in big shiny letters. No, the girl, she's in the back. So who's the main protagonist again exactly? Exactly? So yeah. They greatly value your feedback, apparently. They encourage you to continue sharing your thoughts. And that's good, because we are going to continue sharing our thoughts. I'm going to continue sharing our thoughts, and I know you all out there are going to do the exact same thing. Because you are the only reason this apology was ever issued. You're the only reason they tried to give this fluff, they tried to give this nonsense excuse. Well, we're just taking creative liberties. Well, yes, Yasuke is still up for debate. Only because you got caught! That's the only reason you're doing this. You're no different than the little kid who will stand there and lie to your face about the fact that he didn't steal the cookies out of the cookie jar while he's got cookies all over his face. You would stand there and lie to us if it wasn't for the fact that we caught you with your hand in the cookie jar trying to do this. Because you've got balls now. You apparently thought the whole world agreed with you and you were going to be able to get away with this. Well, guess what? You can't. Not only are fans of Assassin's Creed franchise calling you out, but all of Japan is calling you out. It's why this petition out there has reached 97,000 signatures already. It's the reason why the Japanese government is looking into it. But of course, those politicians over there are a bunch of pussies, just like a lot of you corporate execs out there are too. Which is why they're waiting until the game officially comes out. And of course, this Ubisoft statement is perfectly in line with that. It gives your politicians in Japan out there an excuse to sit on their hands and not do anything. Because, well, the company has said this isn't the final version of the game. Well, screw them and screw that and screw Ubisoft. Go out there, make your voice heard, make sure that they are shamed for this, boys and girls, because making shame great again is working. That's the reason why Ubisoft put out this BS apology. It's the reason why they're out there trying to cover their ass now, because they know they screwed up. Well, guess what? It's too little, it's too late. Maybe you should have thought about that before you decide to hire your historical cultural agencies, your influencers, your advisors, who were completely about the agenda. But you knew that when you hired them. You just thought you were going to get away with it. You thought that the Japanese people weren't going to make a stink over it. You thought that all of the Assassin's Creed fans out there were just a bunch of idiots. That we were just a bunch of pigs that would eat whatever slop you put in the trough and keep on going forward with it. Well, as always, Ubisoft, you just like everybody else out there in the legacy mainstream industry, I call them, it's a legacy industry now because it's dying. The independents are rising up all over the place to take its place. So you, Ubisoft, just like everyone out there in the legacy industries, You thought you were smarter than us. You thought you were better than us. You thought we were just a bunch of idiot geeks and nerds, just a bunch of dumb gamers who just want to sit there and smash buttons in front of a screen all day long. As usual, you have no fucking clue who we are, how smart we are, how passionate we are, and how far our money really goes to affect you. But that's okay, because you're now finding out, Ubisoft. And we are here to document the disastrous dumpster fire of all things legacy media. And today's edition for that, boys and girls, has been Ubisoft and the Assassin's Creed franchise. Burn, baby, burn. You did it to yourself. Go woke, go broke after all.